Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for those excellent comments to get us started. I have some of an echo. I wonder if we should pause for you when we're not talking. All right, much better. Thank you. I am mindful as well, by way of explanation of my voice, with which everyone will be saddled of listening for what I hope will be a brief next few minutes. I just wanted to take a moment and thank the many of you in Arlington who've reached out to share good wishes following my medical leave and surgery of last month, and a big thank you to my colleagues for carrying on without missing a beat as I had to take the December meetings away. I'm so pleased to share that I'm feeling incredibly well. My voice is unfortunately the lagging indicator, but I'm looking forward to being back at full strength and sounding a little less husky by the time we convene again in February, if not January. So thank you again for those who shared good wishes. It meant a great deal to me. So a year ago, when we met on January 2nd of 2020, I was inspired by local and global movements for action on the climate emergency, and I gave comments about bringing the energy and clarity of focus that an emergency begets to our daily work in 2020. I literally titled those remarks, Emergency and Urgency. I am not usually a superstitious person, but just in case, I wrote this year's remarks on the topics of relative ease and uneventfulness. Joking aside, there is unfortunately no doubt that 2021 will likely be characterized by the same state of emergency forced by the global pandemic and the economic crisis that characterized the past year. Even with the vaccine rolling out now, we are still seeing the most severe peaks in COVID-19 cases to date. And so to support this community in continuing the sacrifices necessary to stop the spread, we, this board, county government, will have to sustain the resources that keep people in their homes, that keep their families fed, that get testing to the uninsured and the underinsured in our community, that lend a hand to small businesses through permitting flexibilities, technical assistance, that build on prior state and local grant programs. That will be the key work of these early months of 2021, especially. These darkest before the dawn moments in the pandemic's course also mean more incredibly tough conversations ahead in 2021, such as when APS students will return to in-person environments and how to shore up WMATA so that the temporary impacts of ridership collapse don't become a permanent transit downward spiral. The lifeblood of federal aid, which the new congressional agreement should infuse into both schools and Metro, it helps, but it won't spare this community the weighing of competing values to make seemingly impossible decisions. And although the county board may not be the decider on each of these issues, we have a role. We provide critical information. We work to keep our regional coalition strong and aligned. And we must tackle the pandemic within our borders and our region, because all of these decisions, they will get easier when the case counts become lower and fall. The other thing that we need to end the pandemic is trust in the vaccine. But ours is the nation of the Tuskegee study and the public charge rule. Our past of medical exclusion or worse on the basis of race and citizenship is not even past. Vaccination hesitation can be a rational response to these real circumstances. It requires an all-out effort and trusted community leaders to address it with candor and listening, which is why I'm so grateful that our Complete Count Committee, an extraordinarily diverse group of Arlingtonians that pulled off the heroic task of a complete 2020 census, is mobilizing anew to help reach our hardest to reach neighbors. They will be led by Arlingtonians Wanda Pierce and Elisa Ortiz, joined now in leadership by Nancy White of the Arlington Free Clinic. I am so excited to work with this group of Arlington leaders, along with School Board Vice Chair Barbara Cannonen. Our newly rebranded Complete Vaccine Committee will have a trust-building effort as big as it is important. At some point in 2021, I believe this emergency will begin to lift. And rebuilding after this once-in-a-century pandemic is an opportunity unique so far in my lifetime to think afresh about what kind of future we want for ourselves and for our children, including here in Arlington County. For example, the missing middle housing study is finally and officially underway in phase 1, establishing common definitions about the problems with Arlington's current housing stock and trends. We still have miles to travel with the specifics of the study, but already residents are engaging in a healthy dialogue, whether it's new Neighbors for More Neighbors groups springing up, a fresh willingness to look at how policies, lending practices, restrictive covenants all shape the lack of diversity that characterizes too many of our neighborhoods today, or just thoughtful questions about trade-offs like lot sizes versus transit access or off-street parking versus tree preservation. I'm so inspired to see it. This is a conversation about how the future of Arlington should look and who the future of Arlington is for. And so it's a conversation for us to have with each other as neighbors, not just for county government alone to lead. And that climate emergency that inspired my remarks this time last year, I think there's actually reason to feel hopeful for action in these early months of 2021. Certainly the incoming presidential administration's prioritization of the issue, but here in Arlington, we'll complete the update of the Community Energy Plan Implementation Framework, which means adding specifics to our big, bold goals for renewable energy and carbon emissions reduction, creating more detailed plans for decarbonizing our government activities. I am looking forward to some spirited discussions about our transition to electric vehicles in the county fleet, about helping community members access renewables in their personal and residential use, and other critical topics. 2021 is also the year of our Natural Resources Master Plan update. It's a time for gathering inventories and planning for the future of our trees, our forests, streams, and public lands. And importantly, both plans for clean energy and for stewardship of our natural resources, these are potential proof points for us to embed and set higher goals for environmental equity. We know that nationally, Black and Latino communities have higher exposure to air pollution and to environmental toxins. They bear greater risks for climate-induced heat waves and flooding. And according to a new analysis from the Center for American Progress just this past year, non-white Americans are 3 times more likely to live in what they describe as a nature-deprived area than white Americans. We talked so much during 2020 about racial justice and about how there actually are no race-neutral policies. So in 2021, we should be pushing ourselves in environmental policy as well as in housing, energy policy, and so many other areas to see what we can do to actively undo these racial disparities that do persist here in Arlington too. In short, we may not have seen the emergency coming in 2020, or at least not at the scale and severity it has visited upon us. But in 2021, our challenge will be to see past it, through it, and beyond it, to the type of community we want to be on the other side of this life-changing emergency. If anyone's up to it, I know that it's Arlington County. Happy New Year.